story that must be told from beginning to end.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
Here is a story about music.
Stories About Songs, Kool Keith, Godfather Don, and Dan the Automator. I first heard Kool Keith in 1986. Once again on WNUR, they played Ego Trippin'. And Ego Trippin' wasn't Ultra's first 12-inch, just the first one I heard, and probably the first a lot of people heard, as other stuff earlier was a little more under the radar. Ego Trippin' when they start to make an impact, because it's just such a great record, just advanced production sound of how they were using sampling with S2-Ep and Keyboard Money Mike.
Party people's in the place to be. Just for you, it's the Ultamagnetic MC.
You know, then the rhyming style of Kool Keith and S2-Ep, and them even starting it off kind of questioning some of the more basic styles of rhyme.
Kool Keith, and you simple back and forth, the same old rhythm that a baby can pick up and join right with them, but the rhymes are pathetic. They think they cope aesthetic, using nursery terms, at least not poetic on it.
And so it was just like, oh, let me tune my ears into what they're doing. But even though that's how I first heard Kool Keith, I had actually saw Kool Keith for the first time in January of 1985. I just didn't know for many years later in the 90s or whatever that was Kool Keith, because he was a popper with the New York City Breakers for President Reagan's inauguration.
Right. Reagan campaign message to minority voters, take 37.
To present the excitement of youth, the sights and the sounds of a big city, here are New York City Breakers.
So I saw him there. You know, he was just one of the dope dancers on stage is all I knew. But I later learned that one of those people was Kool Keith. Getting back into Ultra, you know, after Ego Trippin', I was just tuned in and curious for what else they might have in store. And so then the next couple of 12 inches even further grabbed my attention, like Funky. But the one that really solidified it, Mentally Mad, a B-side track. The way that beat is just so raw. The scratches seem like they're probably a tad bit too loud, but perfectly too loud. And then just the way both Kool Keith and S2-Ep sound on the mic was just like, this is an innovation. This is a style that they are owning for themselves. And I was really impressed by that. And then when the album came out, this Critical Beatdown, great album title, a very eye-catching album cover, and then my favorite song on the album is a Kool Keith solo, When I Burn. Just like, that's perfection. Just the way he rides the beat and he used his words, just it really showcases what makes Keith great to me.
Hey yo, Kool Keith, man, hook this beat up just for you in the Ultra Lab, man. So I want you to dog it, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Alright, man, so ease back, you know, kick the lyrics, man. Word up. Alright, do it, man, right now. Alright.
Well, I'm on with the freaky style. When you wait, debate, and rate my rhythm expansion, dimension, lyric extension, rise above amazing days.
But also S2-Ep solo, Delta Force One, Feeling It. The title track is the drums on that one. It's one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. Without a doubt, it comes up for a lot of people. It's on their list.
respond. 30 seconds to respond with our anti-ballistic missile.
But at the time, not everyone really embraced it. I think that it gained more traction over time. Because I mean, personally in my circle, you know, I was down with some people who were hip hop fans. We were making music together, but they didn't like Ultra.
Ultamagnetic.
I think they just thought the lyrics were nonsense, and they didn't get it. And so, like, to the point where I remember there was one time we were like, you know, hanging out at the school, and then they were like being annoying, picking on me or something. And so when we got in the car, I put in the Ultra tape because I knew they didn't like it.
Ultamagnetic.
And they like really got upset. like listening to Ultra was punishment for them. So not everyone was a fan, you know, around me. I'm not sure how it was in other places, but some people around me didn't get it. But at the same token, some people around me were really hardcore fans, maybe even more hardcore fan than I was, which is, you know, I was pretty hardcore. But like Jay Bird and K-Body from Underground Solution were also huge Ultra fans. Actually, I learned about the B-side chorus line from K-Body. So they were like so good with doing new music and B-sides and remixes. We had our network of friends who were like Ultra fans, me, Bird, and K-Body, keep each other in tune with what was happening in Ultra world. And it was inspiring what they were doing on so many levels. And so here we are now years later, that impacting first album and all those singles. And then NUR to the rescue once again.
89.3 WNUR FM.
I'm driving to my guy Spo's house. Spo was one of the MCs I'm working with, you know, around this time. He had a place with this guy, DJ Art. He's like his first DJ. They'd make these little home demos in this apartment they lived in Highland Park. And so I'm driving there and listening to WNUR, and lo and behold, they play a brand new Ultramagnetics 12-inch single for an upcoming album. Make It Happen.
I'm so fresh. How fresh? So fresh, so fresh. Better than the rest, yo. Is that true? Does a dog have 4 legs, 2 eyes, a tongue and a mouth? Think about it.
And I hear it right there on NUR for the first time, and I went and sought that record out immediately. I was like, okay, Ultra's back. That was like an exciting moment to know that this abstract group actually was going to have another chance to put more music out there. And so I remember, like, there's actually this picture that I really like, and it's a picture of me sitting back in the studio cleaning that record. You can see the cover on the ground, because like that was a record I really valued, like Ultra's back. And so that was this, you know, the power of Ultra to me. And so when the album came out, Funk Your Head Up, it definitely wasn't a letdown, but it didn't hit me in the same way the Critical Beatdown did. But I also, even then, realized that was an unreal expectation. Critical Beatdown was just so amazing to even expect that again. It wouldn't even be fair to put that on anyone.
Here's a little story that must be told.
Hey, yes, y'all, and you don't stop. You're listening to the sounds of the best MC in the world. Kool.
But Funk Your Head Up does have some great moments. So I love MC Champion.
MC Champions, Ultra Magnetic.
Bust the Facts. Just the hearing Kool Keith just come down, bring it down to earth for real, and show that, no, I can really just rhyme and be dope. That's not what I usually want to do. But he proves that he can, giving one of the best ever hip hop history lessons on a song.
I got a fly in my hand, bambada The place is packed with Johnny Wine.
And then you have plucking cards where he's calling out the competition.
And I'll kill anyone who dares to go against me.
So Kool Keith is in rare form on this album, even though it's not to me as impacting as a whole as Critical Beatdown. There's like some really, really great moments. TR Love has a great verse on there. It's got some moments. You know, Said G is still doing his thing, and I'm a Said fan as an MC as well, and he's sharp on the album as well. So the album is tight. And it's funny because I actually didn't personally own the album back then, because at the time I was living with my guy, Black Man Zeke. So it's like, why buy the same album twice? So if he bought something, I just buy the other thing that he didn't buy, and vice versa. So when he already got Ultra, I was like, okay, we got a copy of Ultra in the household. So I never really got it. But then there's this local record store in Lake County in Waukegan, Gardner's. They had 2 locations at one point, and the guy, the owner, Gardner, called it like a local meeting for local DJs. He went to kind of like talk about a DJ coalition or something like that. I forget the exact details. We called this meeting for DJs. I remember going there. I remember like it was some of the real names of power DJs at the time, like Captain Too Fresh, like the #1 top DJ of the area. He was there, like standing right next to me. And Bird was there. I'm pretty sure Bird was there too. And I was there as a promoter more than a DJ, even though I dabbled at that point. But I remember standing there for that meeting in Gardner's, and this kind of like, there was a point where he was saying something I really wasn't 100% agreeing with. So I was kind of like processing what I felt about it. So I was kind of drifting off. And then as I drift off, there was like, you know, in the back in the record store, this kind of rack almost hiding in the back. And I was like, is that Ultamagnetic's Funk Your Head Up on vinyl? And I had to like break away from the meeting for a second and go over there and pick it up and be like, this is Ultamagnetic's Funk Your Head Up on vinyl. I didn't think I'd ever find this on vinyl. And so that's how I got the vinyl and finally have my own personal copy of Funk Your Head Up. So it was, you know, it was a big deal. And then they came with the Papa Large remixes with beat miners and went to the West Coast to get DJ Pooh to get down and gave some more flavor. They gave that song a whole new life because it was a song that was cool on the album, but then became a monster on the 12-inch. And then you heard the Stretch Armstrong show and Bobbito and Kool Keith just down there bugging out, just rhyming, not even rhyming, just talking in rhythm, counting in rhythm, just being a character, and sometimes coming down there with Godfather Don, who's showing like really great off the head skills and just having fun.
Bobbito.
30 seconds.
What's up, Kool Keith? House of, you know. Anyway, what's up, Keith?
Tell them if anybody got any records to mail out tonight, the mailman is coming by their house. They can mail the records down tonight.
Tonight, all right, cool.
You don't have to get on a train, just mail your records down.
All right. Thanks a lot, Keith, for that important information. Yo, let's get... we just up here bugging. We gonna get into some more things later on.
So you were getting that Ultra experience and then getting this like radio experience with just Kool Keith unedited. Yes, it was just a lot of things about all that. So when I heard about them signing for the next deal, so now you learned about how like it kind of speaks to like their innovation because labels didn't know what to do with them. You know, they're signed to the next plateau. They're signed to then a major. So a major's like, okay, there's something there. We know there's something there. So a major's trying to get in, but they can't figure out how to make it work. And now they're back on like the king of the independents, the king of the A&Rs who knows how great rap music sounds at Wild Pitch, right? And so I wanted to work with that. And so I worked that Four Horsemen record, which it's a great record. I would consider that the true follow-up to Critical Beatdown. Not even to like say anything negative about Funky Head Up, because I love that album, but it's them stepping off and doing something a little different, where I feel like, Four Horsemen comes back to like, okay, let's get back to what we started with Critical Beatdown. I mean, with songs like Raise It Up, that which is a Godfather Don production, who kills it with the last verse, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, live from Flatbush, Brooklyn, I bring to you tonight the Godfather Don from the office.
Looking down the barrel of a gun is no fun, so for some I run for pump and flip like a tongue of young dragon with the force of 10 cents. So
Then just bring it down to earth. Don't be scared. Yo Black. We Are the Horsemen. Of course, the title track. The Black Baseball tribute. 1212, of course, from the B-side of the first single. That album is really good. The third album, Ultra came back like to make sure you understood what Ultra was about. And that's actually an album I would love to own the instrumentals. Just to listen to those instrumentals in full without the great rapping. Let me just focus on the great instrumentals. There's actually unreleased songs from this time. They actually did a lot of stuff, and I don't know if they ever put them out on those like basement tapes, or I know they've put out a lot of like demos over time. But once when I went to the Wild Pitch office, and there was Mark Genova, my guy DJ Eclipse was there working, so I would kick it, talk on the phone to those guys like Mark Genova and Eclipse, and then when I would go to New York, get to kind of build with them some more too. And I remember this one time I went over there to New York in the office around the time of this album, like right after it came out. And they were like, yeah, there's these kind of songs that they didn't make the album. They played a few for me. At least two of them, I think, were like Sedgy solo songs. And he was doing that kind of like robotic style on that album, which I thought was dope. It was like, is there something different? But I think they were worried that over too much of it would be too much, so they cut some of those songs off the album. But there's a few other gems. They had like this song critiquing a very famous radio DJ that they had like some choice words for that didn't make the album. So they had some gems that didn't even come out on the album. And I'm talking about, on the last episode about that show at the Oak Theater. And even like for Don, before seeing him at Oak Theater and hearing him down with Ultra, I don't think I recognized it right away, but I was new about Don, and I was curious because if he was in a few magazine ads in the Source, because he had an album on Select a few years prior, that's like 91. And I believe they would have ads in there for Homicide. So I would see the ads and I would be like, okay, I wanted this Godfather Don, like what a name, and Homicide, okay. That sounds like I need to take a listen to what that is. And even there was like the Source was like voting this compilation they were like coming out, like sending your demos or rare demos, or I can't remember what they were calling it, but they had a compilation they were putting out. And at some point when it was like the compilation was about to drop, they did a posting of the track listing, and I'm pretty sure Godfather Don's Homicide was listed on the track listing. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy this compilation. But then I never found out how to buy the compilation, and I don't think it came out. Tried to hit up John from on the Source, and he was like, he couldn't even remember off the top of his head what it was, and he thought maybe, if he was remember correctly, it got released in some kind of small way, but not in any big way. So I don't know for sure how it came out. But the point is, I never heard Don back then, I don't think. Maybe I heard a song on the radio. I think I was more just curious and didn't really get to hear him until the Ultra stuff. But around the time of the Four Horsemen, around this time or right after, there's a local guy in Chicago, Mark Davis, local entrepreneur. He was doing a few different things. He's owned record labels, he's DJ, he's just appreciator of lyrics, promoter of shows, just a renaissance man. And he was working with this group called Mindspace, and me and Jaybird had Caught in the Middle magazine. We would request people to send in their demos for our demo section, and they sent in Mindspace, and we wrote about Mindspace because it was a dope demo, and it's produced by TR Love of Ultamagnetic MC, so we got a connection with Ultra. so when we would talk, he would tell me some stories about Ultra. I remember this one thing that's always been in my head, and I've been bugging him about it forever. He said he still has it. Is his freestyle tape with I think it's Scott the Rock on the turntables and Kool Keith and KRS freestyling on the mic. And he's the one that kind of told me more stories and gave me more context to like Said G being the uncredited producer on Criminal Minded. So that was how I heard the rumors and spoken about in whispers in the hip hop folklore. He's the one that kind of gave me some like insight on that when we would talk. So he was giving me a close connection because I met Keith, already, but he had a connection. So it was this strengthening the connection with Ultra basically. And so, because later on he started a record label Black Pegasus, and he released some rare Ultra demos, and including some stuff from the group MF911, who has some Setchy production on their debut album in the early 90s. And he, released some other Chicago stuff on that label, Black Pegasus. And for some of that, I actually helped provide some of the audio for my demo collection. And I can't remember which ones, but I think for the Fully G, the Steady Serve, and maybe for the Easter Rock, I'm not sure, but definitely for the Steady and Fully G. And all those came out through Mark Davis, who's just been a guy doing a lot for hip hop in general, but specifically based in Chicago, doing his thing there. And so sometime back then, he had threw a show, I believe at the Prop House, and he brought Kool Keith out to perform, and a group, East of the Rock, opened up.
I can rock a rally from Philly to Cali and back at the Mecca, Mac 10 and the Fader. Spitting more flavors than the now, even later, even greater than the greatest. Cassius Clay couldn't fade us. Yeah, powerful. Galaxy Rays, powerful. Galaxy Rays, powerful. Galaxy Rays, powerful. Galaxy Rays, powerful. 95th of Stony Island Avenue. 95th of Stony Island.
And that's how I really learned about East of the Rock. He invited me to do a merch table out there. And so I had a merch table and went to this show. East of the Rock was dope. And that's how I'm still a hardcore East of the Rock fan. They never put out nothing widespread. They had some rare vinyl they put out, only came out with the white label versions of it, promo copies of it. And then they had like a demo tape that I got my hands on back then. And then I got more stuff just like 9 or 10 years ago, tracking down the Mad Thinker from East of the Rock. So I'm a big fan, and that's how I learned about him at this Kool Keith show. And then Kool Keith, I think for that whole show, he probably just 94% of it just freestyled, improvised. He just wasn't trying to do songs. If he threw on the beats, he was like, I'm just gonna rap. And he just rapped. And it was really entertaining. And then later on that same trip, I think we went back to Mark's place. We were hanging out, and I think I interviewed Keith there, and then I talked to him because I had caught in the Middle magazine, and I was like, man, I would like you to write something. I don't know, it was just like a moment. I was like, I want you to write something for the magazine. I'm gonna give you a column in the magazine. He was like, yeah, I'll do that. And he wrote the Rhythm X Files. He just hand wrote it on some yellow legal paper. He wrote the Rhythm X Files. He only did it for the one issue, but we plan to keep it going. But it's like we missed the contact for the second issue or something. But I was happy that in my magazine I had Kool Keith as one of the writers. And then not only that, I stayed in touch with him. We would do semi-regular phone calls, me and Keith or me and Don. And even when for a while I had a hip hop hotline, my Rage hip hop hotline, where you could call up the hotline and hear about what were the shows were happening in Chicago, what new releases were coming out. I would call different record labels and get release dates. And so I had this hotline that I would just talk about new music and upcoming events and stuff like that in Chicago. And then I would get artists to do like freestyles to have something special. So Kool Keith did a freestyle for me.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Check it out. Same old styles I never heard before. 1 2 1 2. Check it out as I go through. I'm super dope, superb, like Kane said. You all be brain dead. Check it out one time like a freaky rhyme style.
This is something I never told, I don't think, anybody, but I had my phone answer machine connected to my 4-track so I could use it for the hotline or whatever. I was like, you know what? Let me try to get this better quality. I'm gonna hook the phone up to my 8-track. And so I hooked it up to my 8-track. I called Don. I was like, let me call Don. I'm doing my first 8-track freestyle with Godfather Don. We've been talking about doing it for a few weeks or whatever. So I called Godfather Don and I'm like, yo, Don, what you doing right now? He's like, no, I'm working on this beat. He's like, I just finished this beat and the beat's playing. I don't think this song ever came out. Or maybe I didn't recognize it, but I just don't feel like I've heard that beat again. Because I remember the beat being like, man, I really want to hear this. I want to buy this when this comes out, is what I'm thinking. And like, so he has, I just made this beat. And he's like, I can tell he's in the zone. I was like, okay, this is perfect. He's like, I called you to do that freestyle for me. He's like, can I do it to this beat? And I was like, yeah, just let the beat play. And it's one of those things where it's not fair to say, because I can't prove it to you, but it was like, I feel like it was the best. And I heard a bunch of Don freestyles. I'm like, I feel like it was like one of the best, if not the best freestyle I've heard from Don. He just like went into a zone. And I was like, yo, he is killing it. But I didn't hook it up correctly and it didn't record. When Don was done, he felt so good about it. He was like, yo, yeah, I blacked out. Sorry I went for so long. He's like, you got it? I was like, yeah, man, yeah, it was dope, man. I got it. Because at that point, I wasn't sure yet. It's just that when he had stopped, I had looked and I was like, wait, I don't see any levels. Like, why is there no levels? Like, maybe it's it's a technicality. Maybe it recorded, but I didn't see the levels. But yeah, for whatever reason, it didn't record it. Like, and I didn't have the heart. Once I figured that, I didn't have the heart to tell him ever, like, Don, it didn't record, because he was like, yeah, he's like, I gave you that was dope. I was like, yeah, it was, but it got lost. It's the Don Lost freestyle. Anyway, so I had them call my hotline. I had I had Pudgy the Fat Bastard do a freestyle, Curious, Coolio. So it was just like I have these freestyles on this hotline. So anyway, kind of getting back to this, but in putting this together, I was going through my notes to see if I could find anything to give more context, and I found some old notes from like in May of '94 is when he does the hotline freestyle, Kool Keith, and I write down that we talked for like an hour and a half. And in that day, Kool Keith asked for my address. He was just sending me some rarities, and I'm pretty sure that's when he sent me the Cutmaster Kurt demos. When he went out west and did a Cutmaster Kurt, the songs that didn't come out for a long time. I had them. So this was back in like '95 or something, and they didn't come out like '94, '95, but they didn't come out until like years later as Sex Styles. Some of the songs. I think there's still some on there. I have like I don't know, Big Eyes, but they came out later on something else of like some other compilation. But I had them for years and years by the time they actually came out, because he had sent it to me in May of '94. And he gave me his address because he wanted me to mail him some stuff. It's funny because he was like, gave me a whole long speech about, he's like, I'm looking for Das EF's first album on cassette and I can't find it anywhere in New York. Like, I really want to have that album on cassette. And he's like, can you find it in Chicago and mail it to me? I was like, I will find Das EF's Dead Serious and mail it to you in New York so you can have, so you can have it.
I got that up, but I can be fire, diddly bum, here I come, Sabrina Piper. I'm hyping up Pinocchio's.
I remember I tried to find that tape. I think I got the tape and sent it to him, but I sent him some Chicago demos at the same time, and they were like, we're going to connect. I mailed those to him, and then I was going to New York not too long after that, months later, and so I went to New York, and this was at the New Music Seminar in '94. I was down there because Grav was there. Rob Free and Judgmental from Kinetic Order were there because they all of them were in the battle, with Judgmental ended up being the winner. Zeke was there because he was there with Grab because they were Indigenous Theory and they were doing part of a showcase with the Fly Paper. I was there because I was a staff writer for the Fly Paper and we were doing this release party, and that was a whole other story. So we're all there for this thing, and at one point I'm at like the hotel where the seminar is held, and I'm like in like this cypher with like Jamalski, and I can't remember who else was there, like Premier, like just like walked by or something like that. And then I see Kool Keith, and like soon as he recognizes me, he just goes, "Rubber Room, Rubber Room, Rubber Room," because I had sent him some Chicago demos, and he just started chanting one of the hooks from one of the Rubber Room demos I sent him. And he was like, "Yo, that Rubber Room is dope." And so I was like, okay, Kool Keith gets it, like what they're trying to do. So that made me feel real good to be able to go tell those guys later, yo, Kool Keith digs what y'all doing at Rubber Room. So, that was just the kind of connection that I have with Keith. Just like we would just talk about hip hop and lyrics and what we both appreciated and whatever. And that was kind of similar to what I would do with like me and Don. Like I even once went to New York on something else, and I just hooked up with Don. I called him and we met by like this pizza. I think he was co-owner or owner of this pizza place. He said I had to go check on he had to go check on his business and to meet him at this pizza place. And so we met the pizza place. He went in there, did something. So I think he might have been owner of a pizza place sometime or something like that, or whatever. Maybe I misconstrued what that was, but we hung out for a minute, talked about rap, and just kicked it, me and Don. So we stayed in touch for a while too. I mean, like even like he would like let me know about projects, and even things he told me about. There's things that we talked about, like he's working on these demos of things that never dropped. Even in all these demo like things have come out. There's a song that I don't know that song, like I Don't Care, ever dropped that I've heard before from a Bobbito tape. But even he him and Keith had the project Agents of Chaos, and I don't know if that ever came out under a different name or something, but I remember him telling me about the Agents of Chaos project. He was just keeping me in post of what he was doing. And the people knew that I had a connection. I remember even Virtuoso, who was down with the Rebel Alliance out of Boston. He had hit me up because I went to Boston and interviewed all those guys. So he knew me from that. And he hit me up like, "Yo, I really want to do a song produced by Godfather Don, and maybe even having rhyme on it." He's like, "Can you maybe try to put me in contact?" So I remember putting Don in contact with Virtuoso. I don't know whatever happened. I mean, I never heard a song, so I guess it never got done for whatever reason. But I remember that was something I was like, I think that would sound dope. Virtuoso and Godfather Don. Unfortunately, I don't think it ever happened. I remember even like I said, I had Kool Keith as a writer on Caught in the Middle. So was Godfather Don. He interviewed Bobbito for me. I was like, I saw the chemistry they had on the radio. And when this Don would go down there and visit, him and Bob would just bug out. And I was like, he'll get something out of Bobbito that I won't get because Bobbito will be more loose. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna ask Don to do it. And Don was down to do it. He's like, bro, yeah, that'd be tight to write. So I like the idea. One of the things I like about, what I was doing with Caught in the Middle is I wanted to use artists as writers to get that kind of that perspective in the writing, which I know there's pros and cons to that, but it was one of the things that I wanted to do to kind of balance out traditional writers for Caught in the Middle. That's a little side story. But anyway, like I mentioned, Keith mentioned me sending me those Cubmaster Kurt demos, and my memory gets a little fuzzy here, but I think I'm pretty sure through him sending me those demos, the number on the tape or something was Cubmaster Kurt. So I wound up talking to Kurt through that. I believe is how I first met Cubmaster Kurt. And then I believe it was Kurt who called me one day and was like, "Hey, my guy is coming out there to visit. He's gonna be, somewhere around Chicago. He has family out there he's visiting. He's like, I was trying to find someone to, show me around Chicago, connect with him. He's a local producer, DJ out here who's doing some dope stuff, and he's working on a project with Kool Keith." He's like, are you down to connect with him? I was like, oh yeah, for sure. You're like, give me the information, give my number, and tell him call me he's in town, and I'll connect, do whatever. And so this dude comes to town, we connect, and we agree we're gonna go do like deep dish pizza, the Chicago thing, and kick it and talk about music. And this person is Dan the Automator. And so he had family out there in a suburb of Chicago. And so we were just like, that's how I met Dan the Automator. We're kicking it. And he's telling me about this project he's working on with Kool Keith, which is Dr. Octagon. He had just finished this project and had a promo tape. This is probably at least a year before it came out. I mean, it seems like a long time. It was, I'd say minimum 6 to 8 months before it came out, but I think it was a year or more before it came out. It maybe just felt like forever because it was like no one else had it, and it was like maybe that slow time. So, but also like at the same time, because he had that, he had played me like there's also some songs I did with Keith that didn't really fit this style, this record, so they aren't on the album. I don't know what we're gonna do with them. He's like, cool, Keith wants to take them back to use for his own project he's doing, but I kind of want to keep them for something else. So we haven't decided what to do with these songs. So he played them for me, and they were King of New York and It's Over Now. And those songs didn't come out till like 7 years after I heard them. Something like that. Like many years after I heard them. I think that was like 94, 95. And that was like 94. And so I don't think I heard those didn't come out till I feel like years later. It was a while. It was definitely a while later, I would say. So I had this early Dr. Octagon tape that really no one else had. He's like, I only had a few of these, but I'm going to give it to you because whatever, he talked to Kurt and thought I was a person that would be good to get a tape to. But it's caught in the middle and other stuff. So that's how I met Dan. He went back. We stayed in touch. Fast forward to now when I know the album is finally about to drop. I'm happen to be in New York, and I end up connecting with LP because I heard a couple of songs on. I would get tapes of the Stretch Armstrong show, and then when I would hear songs that I was curious about, I want to know. Because I learned that Bobbito worked at Def Jam. I think I just called. It was like, can I speak to Bobbito? And so I would call and talk to Bobbito and ask him about songs he played on the show, and then once in a while he would connect me with the artist directly. And LP was one of those guys he connected me with. So when I went to New York, we agreed to meet and we hung out with them at their apartment, met Big Just. The person I went there with ended up abandoning me, and I ended up actually just staying with Company Flow at their place. And so in that process, he had just got the very first, not the Fun Crusher plus the album, but just the Fun Crusher EP. They had just finished recording that, and he got the tape from the studio, like the reference tape for himself. So he was like showing me that, and we were listening to this tape. Like he had like 2 copies, like him and Just had a copy, I believe. And I remember he took me for a walk around his neighborhood. I think I met Paradise from X-Clan, in 91 when they were doing an autograph signing, but it was just like they were signing autographs and I was there as a fan. But LP took me to the studio that they ran, and I got to meet him officially, meet Paradise there, of the X-Clan and many more things, Latin Quarters. So just kicking it with Company Flow. And anyway, he somehow talking, I mentioned that I had the Dr. Octagon, and by now, like I said, it's about to come out. There's ads for it. People are talking about it. It's known throughout, the hip hop that this thing is coming. And he was really like, I want to hear Dr. Octagon. So we actually worked out a trade because I was like, okay, now I can do this. I know it's about to come out. So he traded me his copy of Fun Crusher for me to make him a dub Dr. Octagon. And so I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's a hard offer to pass up. They'd be the only people to have a copy of this great EP. I can go play it on the radio first, in the world. What I'm saying? One of the first in the world, if not the first in the world, like me and Bobbito or whoever he gave the other tape to. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take that to have so I can be like, one of the first play this record. I played him some stuff from Chicago that he wanted to dub. I remember particularly he responded well to the Immortal Griffin, this song called Enough Is Enough.
Microphone mutilation is the method to my madness. Mischievous is my soul, MC's expressions be the saddest. When I am low, my mind's accumulated stress and rain thunder. A b-boy wonder blasting marks, I put toys underneath the soil. Approximation, 6 feet, I've given maggots enough to eat forever, plus 3 weeks.
LP was like, oh, this is, make me a dub of that too. So I gave him that, a couple other Chicago things. So that was like how I was connecting with all these things were kind of intersecting. Kool Keith, you know, Godfather Don, leading to Dan, Cutmaster Kurt, and Company Flow. There's a lot was happening, a lot with all this underground stuff. And just keeping back with Dan, you know, he went on after Dr. Octagon do all this amazing career as a producer, remixes, you know, side projects like Handsome Boy Modeling School and just different things. It's like he's just a creative force with his own like album, A Much Better Tomorrow, work with the Gorillas, Deltron 3030, you know, and then he also was part of the label 75 Arc in the like early 2000s, you know, where like, you know, leads us basically to the next episode because there was like a lot of great talent on that label. And we're talking about, a few artists in this season of the show who were on 75 Arc, you know, with the Kool, Anti-Pop Consortium, and of course, Dan the Automator. So so we'll just kind of pick it up there next episode. Stories about songs.
That's my story. That's my story. 95th of Stony Island Avenue. 95th of Stony Island.